weren't anticipating making another film in this same area, but every time we showed Invisible War on campuses, Amy, someone came up to us and said, actually, this happened to me here, and there's a lot of analogies between what you're pointing out going on in the military, going on at my school. And Kirby would find that as well at almost every screening at different universities across the country. And then we started getting letters in our inboxes. Dear Miss Ziering, dear Mr. Dick, will you please make a film on campus assaults? This happened to me at X university. And we actually were working on a very different project. We just looked at each other and said, we cannot not make this film. I mean, we were shocked that this is going on, and we felt like, well, actually, we understand these issues. We know how to make this kind of film, and we felt compelled to do it.
Amy, I went to one of your premieres here at Sundance, and the response afterwards was overwhelming. You were besieged. I watched one woman come up to you and say, it happened to my daughter.
No, that happens, yeah, with this film also. Yeah. And also mothers come up and said, it happened to me 30 years ago at Dartmouth. I've gotten that a lot. It happened to me 30 years ago, and thank you for doing this. I couldn't speak then.
Kirby, this film is not only about people who've been deeply hurt, sexually assaulted, raped. It's about women who are organizing right now all over the country, and it's led by two women from the University of North Carolina. Both of them were raped, Annie Clark and Andrea Pino. They are remarkable. It happened to them several years apart from each other, but they found each other. They're now traveling the country, helping victims at universities file Title IX anti-discrimination complaints to the Department of Education. They were raped early on in their college careers?
Yes, both of them were, I think, assaulted within the first or second year that they were there, yes. And then Andrea had found out about Annie Clark's earlier activism 3 or 4 years ago and reached out, and they formed this bond, and then they started, Annie was appalled that this was still going on, and so the two of them decided to really do something. And the first thing they did was start to investigate and how to file a Title IX complaint. And so they, without any attorneys, wrote and filed a complaint against the school, which was accepted by the Department of Education.
One of the most galling parts of this film, Amy, is how administrations respond or don't respond. I mean, you have Annie Clark, now one of the organizers of a major anti-rape movement in this country. When she was raped and went to the University of North Carolina administration, one of the officials said, it's like a football game. What is like a football game?
Rape is like football. You have to think back on what you would have done differently, just like you would in any play in any game. That was what she said the administrator had said to her.
This is what was so appalling is we interviewed on camera over 60 women and men, and we were over and over and over, you hear the stories of these women who were assaulted, and that was profoundly it was traumatizing to them, but they trusted their school. They went to their school. They had the courage to come forward to talk about it, and they trusted that their school would do the right thing. And in so many cases, you heard this form of victim blaming, like it was your fault, like you drank too much, you were dressed too provocatively. And it was just from across the board, whether it's Ivy League schools, Southern schools, small liberal arts colleges. It was shocking.
Amy, can you talk about some of the examples of some of the punishments that are meted out to students? Rarely are they found responsible, but in the cases that they are?
No, the punishments are ridiculous. One was like a $75 fine, a $25 fine, a book report, a poster board on 10 ways to approach a girl you like. What was it at another school?
Well, it was 50 hours of community service at a rape crisis center.
Perpetrator is told to serve at a rape crisis center?
Yes, which is just the most absurd.
Kirby, you have these full screens in the film that show statistics, the number of people who complain on campuses of rape or sexual assault. And of course, this is very small compared to how many are actually raped or assaulted. But those numbers compared to how many people are expelled. And at university after university, you see on the screen a big fat zero.
Yeah, I mean, this is what was so shocking, is that these schools, I mean, we know that assaults are going on in each of these schools hundreds of times a year, perhaps even thousands of times a year at these schools, and yet no one is getting expelled year after year after year. A University of Virginia, for example, well over 200 assaults over a period of time that people have reported. These are only the reported assaults, keep in mind. no one was expelled during that time.
There's something else that's very profound in this film. You come to understand universities all too often want to protect their brand more than the victim. That they don't want to report these assaults. They don't want to expel people. And yet, when it comes to what is called honor crimes, like plagiarism, they expel scores of people. Explain.
I mean, one of the unfortunate things is there's very little transparency on this issue across the campus and across the country. So it's very hard to even get these numbers. We were fortunate to get these numbers from the University of Virginia, who had not expelled anyone over a multi-year period, yet they had expelled, I think, nearly 200 people for other much more minor infractions like plagiarism. So that really tells you a lot about the priorities of the school and about the fact that protecting their students is not the #1 priority.